Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Details Podcast. My name is Tara Miller, and I will be your host. I wanted to start a podcast for two main reasons. One is because I have had the privilege of working with so many incredible and inspiring female entrepreneurs or just business powerhouses, and I wanted you all to meet them and hear their stories, and maybe it would inspire you and you can take that into your life or your business. And then number two is because I love you all, and I get so many emails and DMs from people wanting to start a business or curious about the interior design industry. And you guys say, "Can we go to lunch, Tara? Can I take you out to coffee and just pick your brain, hear your story, how you got to where you are?" And I would love to say yes to every single one of you, but unfortunately, I just don't have enough time in the day. So I thought, let's do this first podcast, answer the most commonly asked questions that I kind of get me out of the way, get my story out there. I can send this to you guys who want to sit down for coffee or lunch. You can have this. And then after this, we'll dive into a lot of amazing guests. Okay. So that is my goal for the podcast. And we're basically going to be covering three main topics that cover everything: business, design, and lifestyle. Because I come from owning an interior design business, that's kind of my background. But in my, 7 or so years in business, I've learned that there are so many fundamental principles that business owners use across all industries. So why not talk about them, right? I had so many female business owners that poured into me and that helped my business so much. So if I can give back a little bit to you guys, that's what I'm going to do. And I by no means think I'm a business expert at all, like still learning, still growing, but I am open to share everything that I know with you guys. So let's get started. I'm 34 years old now. I've owned my business for about 7 years, I think. I'll have to do the math. But I wanted to take it back to high school for you guys because this is really where it all started for me. I'm going to age myself, but I graduated high school in 2009. And so my junior, senior year, I was really thinking about, what do I want to do with my life? Obviously, you're thinking about applying to colleges, looking at different schools. And so I had always been a really right brain person. I really love, creativity, art, music, imagination. Like that was my strengths growing up. It was not like heavy math and science and numbers, right? So I wasn't a really left brain person. Knowing this, I was really lucky that my high school offered both a graphic design course and an interior design course. And I took both of them, kind of testing the waters out because those both sounded interesting to me for like careers. So I took both those classes, and then I went a step further and I actually researched the curriculum for actual, graphic designer courses or interior design courses at a college and kind of looked at their course load and what computer programs that they would learn, because that seemed important to me. Both are computer heavy industries. And so what I learned, or what I thought I learned at the time, was that interior design, yes, you're going to use like Adobe Creative Suites, Revit, AutoCAD, modeling programs. And then graphic design, what I looked at was basically they were just learning the Adobe Creative Suites. They didn't do Revit, AutoCAD, any of those modeling capabilities, because why would they need to? They don't. So I said, okay, I'm going to go with the interior design route because I learned more programs, and then say, if I get into the field 2, 5 years, whatever, and decide I hate it, then I can kind of redirect, change course, and go the graphic design and really lean into the Adobe Creative Suite side of it. So my decision was made. I decided to attend UNL's College of Architecture, University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I had looked at some other places out of state, but I had no money and I could not afford to pay out of state tuition. So in-state it was. And luckily, UNL actually has a really great College of Architecture. And within the College of Architecture, they have 3 programs: architecture, landscape, and interior design. So I went to the interior design path. And it was, a great college experience. Besides that, like I told you, I was broke. So I had to take out a bunch of loans and work a bunch of jobs while I was going to college to help pay for it. And then also living in the dorms and on campus, and the meal plan was just way too expensive and not feasible. So I stayed at home, lived with my parents, and commuted to college because gas and a parking pass was way cheaper than everything else of living on campus. So commuted. here's the thing about the interior design program at UNL. It is CIDA accredited, CIDA. I think that stands for the Council of Interior Design Association. No, Council for Interior Design Accreditation. It's basically a governing body that reviews the curriculum of collegiate interior design courses to see if it meets like a high level of academic standards. We'll talk about that later when applying for an NCIDQ exam or certificate. But yeah, so I went to UNL for interior design. The first 2 years is really known as a weed out program, okay? Because everyone loves interior design, right? How can you not? It's fun, it's exciting, it's visual, it's tactile, there's, acoustic qualities, like it's a full submersive experience. So, people love going to a really cool hotel or a really cool restaurant or anything that's really well designed. I mean, some airports are even really freaking cool if you go to the right ones. And it's all intentional, it's all designed, it's really fun. So a lot of people want to be interior designers and they can only take so many. So the first 2 years are just known as the weed out program, and it is the heaviest course load. Like sometimes people drop out and go to the College of Engineering to do less work and then end up making more money in the real world. So that's a known fact. Very little sleep, very heavy computer programs, you guys. I was actually texting my friend Tanya this morning. Oh, I wonder where my phone is. I was texting my friend Tanya this morning, and I'll get permission from Tanya to share this. But I was just like checking on a few things about third and fourth year, which we'll get to. But she said something really funny, and I had to share it because it like encapsulates College of Architecture so well. Oh my gosh. Okay, she says, my mom was talking to me yesterday about the projects of mine that she has sitting in her basement. She said it's hard for her to throw them away because she remembers the phone calls with me in tears and me sleeping under my desk, etc. The literal blood, sweat, and tears that went into those four-letter word things. I have a scar on my hand from a wire that sliced me from one of my models. That is just the perfect explanation of the first 2 years of interior design school. So if you're thinking, hey, interior design looks like it's for me, I'm going to go to college for interior design, just know it is not like HGTV. It is nothing like TV, okay? Just get that in your brain and be able to like work almost all day and all night, like maybe get 2 hours of sleep under your desk, no time for partying. We were all exhausted. The first thing in Tanya and I's conversation, she was like, college was a blur. And I agree, because of the lack of sleep, not because of partying. So that's just like a known thing, at least in my state, about the College of Architecture and Interior Design and Landscape. We're all together. Let me know if that's what it's like in your state. I'd be really curious to know that. But after those first 2 years, at least at my college, you have to reapply to get into the third year of interior design college. So that's a big thing. Like you can't just like slack off. You're not just going to like get grades and pass. Like you actually have to produce quality work and create a portfolio and reapply. So did that, praise the Lord, got into third year. And third year wasn't like as heavy sleeping under your desk. It wasn't as rigorous because third and fourth isn't a weed out program anymore. It's like the actual curriculum. Also important to note, architect, landscape, and interiors are together for the first 2 years because there's just like a lot of fundamentals and like computer programs and just principles of design that lay the groundwork. And then you go off into your respective studies, third and fourth. So then once you get to fourth year, you actually, at least at my college, there was 2 different studios. You could go to the healthcare studio or you could go to the hospitality studio. And so I went to the hospitality studio. And one of the things in my life that like really made me interested in hospitality interior design was my junior year in high school. My grandpa had a birthday party in Costa Rica and he flew my family down. My family, like our vacations growing up was like tent camping, right? Like getting out in nature. Never been to Costa Rica or like a crazy resort. So going down to Costa Rica as a junior in high school and seeing a resort, like I was just amazed with the details, the lighting, the textures, the materials, like the spatial awareness, the layouts, like how spaces would just open up and frame views. Like it definitely had an imprint on my life. So long story short, I decided to go to the hospitality studio for college. And that was wonderful. One of my professors was Tom Elisma, who if you're in this like Omaha, Nebraska area, he is like one of the head people at the Flagship Restaurant Group, which has restaurants all over the United States now. And so he was truly and is truly a hospitality expert. And so I love learning from people who have like been out in the world and done projects because, and this might offend a couple people, so I'm sorry if it offends you, but sometimes at colleges, there becomes a professor culture where students graduate and then they, go on to do their master's and then they go into teaching and they become professors, yet they've never practiced architecture, design, or landscape in the real world. That's not the optimal scenario. What I love is when people have gone out into the world and actually been an architect and like built successful projects or like done an interior designer and built successful projects, and then they come and be a professor. Anyways, so I loved learning from Tom Elisma, fourth year hospitality studio. My thesis project was called the Whitetail Hotel, which I thought was like me trying to blend my redneck background of like archery and hunting and like canoeing with my love and passion of interiors and architecture and art, and like tried to blend those in a nice way. It's a little bit of that juxtaposition of like leather and lace. Like they're two different things made for like two different looks, but somehow together they just kind of vibe. So that was my Whitetail Hotel thesis project. And how this gets to today is, okay, graduated college in 2013. So I know that dates me. I don't care, because an important part of this is I want you guys to know it takes time to like have a startup business and eventually reach like some level of success, either your version of success, the world's version of success, whoever. So I graduated college in 2013. And we were required to do an internship our junior year. So I had an unpaid internship. My college was in Lincoln. My internship was in Omaha, which is like 45 to 60 minutes away. And so all summer I did an unpaid internship and I just slept on my cousin's couch. Luckily, I had a cousin who lived in Omaha at the time and he let me sleep on his couch all summer. So free rent, right? Not a paid internship, which I think is huge. I think now it's required to pay interns. But I think back in the day, like really showed people who were willing to really work hard for nothing and just gain that experience. Not nothing. Work hard for actual real life knowledge and experience and not monetary pay, right? So that's changed. But so luckily when I was graduating my fourth year, the place that I had internship with offered me a full-time position. And let me tell you, that was a big deal because in 2013, it was right after that economic downturn when the stock markets crashed and a lot of people were out of jobs. And my class, like my graduating class was 30 people. And so I was one of very, very few to actually get a job. Like I think maybe less than half of the people in my graduating class got a job offer. So very thankful to get a job offer. It wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. It was in luxury residential, and I really wanted to be in hospitality commercial space. But I know that experience is the best trainer. So I was like, I will take this. Absolutely, I will take this job. I will get paid. I will learn. And so, long story short, I don't know the exact math, but I was there for like 6 or 7 years from when I graduated in 2013 to I think 2017. I was at this luxury residential firm and I learned so much about material application, actually seeing a construction project from concept through construction to install furniture. It's a long process. It's not like the TV shows, right? Like I'm going to probably say that a couple times, but it takes a long time. It takes a lot of people and it takes a lot of attention to detail. So that was the pros, and there were some incredible people there. I will say, and I'll just be like really honest here because this is the Details podcast, and I promised you that I would give you the details. So I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty. I made $14 an hour as a college graduate with my bachelor's in interior design for 7 years. And every time that I had like a progress check with my boss, I like for the first 6 years, I didn't ask for a raise. I just thought, Tara, you're going to work hard. You're going to show them what you're giving to the company. I was the only one who could do AutoCAD and Revit and do floor plans and sections and elevations. All the other girls would either hand draft or sketch and then just like send it to a fabricator. So I could do all that. I also had, Photoshop, Adobe Creative Suite, so I could like show this sofa to their customer. I could show it in the brown leather that they wanted or whatever. So I was actually adding a lot. I was using my own personal computer at the time. I didn't have a company computer with all those programs. Those were all of my own programs bought and paid for by me. So I thought like, I'm bringing so much to this company. They'll recognize my hard work and eventually I'll get a raise. and that didn't happen. I realized, okay, at some point you have to ask for the raise, which I do encourage you to do if you've been at a firm for a long time. I think a lot of girls are at places like 1 or 2 years, and then they bounce. But if you're there for a long period of time, like, and you're doing the work and you're going above and beyond your job description, ask for a raise. Like, say, hey, I've been keeping track of XYZ. This is what I've been bringing to the company. Here's my add value. Since this is above and beyond my work description, like, I would like to ask for a raise. Or you can word it however you want. But so my 6th year, I asked for a raise, and I like explained, I did the legwork. I was like, hey, I'm bringing X, Y, and Z to the company. I think this is like a really good ad for you guys. It's like benefited the business. And I think that like results in like higher value, or however I worded it, to get a raise. I got a 25-cent raise my 7th year of being there. And it kind of felt like a low-key little bit of slap in the face, if I can say that. But I also didn't feel like there was opportunity to grow. Like, I was kept as a junior designer. I really wanted to be like a senior designer, like in charge of my own projects. And I was assisting, which I loved, and I did learn a lot from, like a lot. And I'm so thankful for that opportunity to be an assistant interior designer. But I also feel like I was on social media early, and I'd been researching hospitality design and global interior designers since high school. So I'd seen all these other looks and styles and like textures and ways to use materiality outside of the Midwest, but it wasn't really being implemented in the Midwest. And I had kind of tried to like push for that, and I didn't feel like it was too well received. So not only was I not making much money, didn't have an opportunity to grow, like didn't have an opportunity to be a full-fledged interior designer, just an assistant. I didn't feel like there was a future for growth. And so I thought, okay, I need to make a shift. And I still had that heart for commercial interior design. I really wanted to get into the commercial sector some way, somehow. I started looking at commercial firms around, I don't know, like, I got there full time in 2013. And maybe I started looking in like 2015, 2016. I don't know. I'm like kind of blanking on it now. But anyways, luckily in Omaha, there's tons of architecture firms, like corporate headquarters for like mogul firms. Bet you didn't know that. Or maybe you did if you're from here. But like DLR, Leo A. Daily, HBA. I mean, there's so many. I could sit here and list them all. And I applied, but no one was hiring. And so I was like, okay, if I can't get a job at my dream firm or like a commercial firm, I'm going to do a sidestep in my career. So what that looked like for me was I actually applied to be an A&D rep, so an architecture designer rep for a local tile store, and they sold tile, countertops, cabinets, and setting materials. So what my job was when I got that job, I was the A&D rep for Iowa, Nebraska. And so I would travel and go to every single architecture and design firm and show them our new tiles, countertops, setting materials, cabinets. So not my dream job, like not something I was crazy passionate about because I didn't have that creative element. Like I was literally a sales rep, which was fine, but it didn't feed my creativity. But it did teach me a ton about materiality, application, like the construction process. I went to Schluter school, you guys, if you know what Schluter is. It's a German company of all these like metal pieces that help install tile. So that was incredible. Like I'd be laying tile all of a sudden. So I got some real world experience, a lot of sales experience, which I think if you're going to be a business owner, being in sales at some point in your life is super expensive, because if you're going to own a business, you're going to have to either sell a product or a service, and you got to be good at it to make money. Being a sales rep, I learned a lot about communicating to the customer, romancing the dream, making the sale, all those things. And I valued that. And I got to see so many firms, because I felt like when I was at that first firm, the one I went to right after college, it just felt like that was the only firm in the world, like luxury, residential. That was the pinnacle of everything. I feel like they low-key made it feel like if you go anywhere else, it's down from here. And so being at the rep job, traveling, 2 states, I got to see so many firms, and I just felt like my eyes were opened of how much was even in the Midwest. And yeah, I'd been researching and looking at stuff globally and on the coast, but like I didn't think I'd get there. So I just thought, okay, there are other options here in the Midwest. Tara, like, let's look into this. And then here's what happened. People still knew that I was an interior designer, like formally trained. And so I was still getting asked to do interior design jobs, even though I was full-time repping as a sales rep and A&D sales rep. So I started taking on very specific jobs, nights and weekends. after my full 9 to 5. And it was fun because I got to get back into like my creative energy, my creative juices, and like let that flow. And that just feels so good when that like is what you're made to do, and that's what you feel like you're made to do. So it started off really small again, nights and weekends, and then it started growing. And the tipping point came when a developer approached me about doing a full development of apartment complexes, phase 1, phase 2, and like all the amenities, all the buildings, all the finishes, all the soft furnishings for like the clubhouse and the showroom and like everything. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna give you all the details. The developer was my grandpa. Okay, so very blessed. I would have never have had that opportunity had that not been my grandpa. So I'm not gonna like skip over that and act like it wasn't. And I think a lot of times connections, whether it be friends or family or just family friends, like I think connections get you places in life. And I didn't know that as a young person. And now being a business owner for like 7 years, I see that a lot. Like people don't go out and advertise like, yeah, I got this job because it's my dad's best friend, or I got this job because my husband golfs with so-and-so or whatever. But yeah, I'll be honest, that's how I got my big first, I would say, break on a large scale development was my grandpa was the developer and he's my favorite and I love you. So that was wild and amazing and so educational because I had never done such a large scale commercial project before. I'd been working at a residential design firm for 7 years doing huge luxury residential houses, exquisite, like creme de la creme, so beautiful. But the sheer square footage is just different. Like an 8,000 square foot house, big, wonderful, but like acres of land being developed from dirt and graded and plumbed and electrical coming in and all of those buildings being built and all of the plans that you have to draw and review and all the selections that have to make. It's just so much more, like 10x, like 10 times the size or something. I don't have the exact square footage, but so not only that was it a huge learning opportunity. I was, brought into the OAC meetings, owner, architect, contractor meetings, just to like your progress, be a part of the team, add feedback, brainstorm solutions. And so that was the best learning experience ever. And I'm still so thankful to my grandpa and my uncle who ended up like coming in and partnering and like they co-own the company now. So thankful. And that was like the tipping point for me when I was like, okay, I can no longer stay at my full-time 8 to 5 sales rep job because I knew I'm kind of going back now, but I knew that development project was going to take all of my time. So when I got that, that's when I quit my repping job and I basically full-time started my own company. So the Heartland Interior Design was born, like a formal name. I had an Instagram handle before that, but did all the legal things, like registered with the state, all that jazz. And that was one project that I had going on. But here's a very important thing that I want you guys to know. Working like 7 years at the other firm, since I was technically an assistant, I didn't have a portfolio built up. Yes, I assisted and I helped and I aided in many interior design jobs. But number one, that company owned the rights to the photography, as they should. Like they paid for that. And I was not the lead interior designer. So I had no portfolio besides what I had in college, which you don't really want to show, like 8 years out of college. So I had to rebuild up my portfolio. I was scrappy and I was like, I know what to do. I'm going to do a couple jobs for free. And I started reaching out to like male business owners that I saw were moving and grooving and doing cool things in the community. And I was like, oh, I want to work with you. I'm an interior designer. Just a tiny bit about me, like want to learn about you. How can I help you? If you ever open a store, let me know. Or, hey, I see you talking on social media, like you're maybe going to open a storefront. Could I take you out to coffee and sit down and chat? Maybe we could do something together. So I was approaching people and brands saying like, I would love to work with you for free so that I could build up my portfolio. And I think there are pros and cons to working for free. So pros, you do get to build up your portfolio, and cons is in life, I feel like people obviously put a certain value amount on a dollar. And when you pay for something, you value that. And if you get something for free, it's kind of just like advice, kind of like, oh, my neighbor gave me some nice advice, not like, hey, this paid professional is like doing their job. So it felt, and not every project that I did for free felt this way. Some were like absolute blessed angels, like the kindest people ever. But some others was like a little interesting and you got treated a little bit differently. And then the icing on the cake is when people start trying to low-key take credit for your design work. And so that's hard because if you're working for free, you're basically getting paid in exposure. And then if you don't get that exposure, you're just like screwed. So it's a means to an end working for free. Don't do it forever, but do it for a while if you need to. I'm just telling you, this is what I did. And so, yeah, I did that for a little bit and then learned some lessons and I was like, okay, I'm going to start charging. It's supply and demand, right? When the demand rises, your prices can go up. So for me, I was going from zero to like starting to charge. And at that time, I think I started, what was I charging? I was either charging like $75 or $100 an hour because that was the going rate for residential design back then. But then I started working towards my NCIDQ licensing, which if you don't know what that is, it's the National Council for Interior Design Qualifications. Yes, it is this huge 3-part exam, many hours of tests. And like you have to go to like the proctoring centers and it's on a computer and you have to like be there for hours and answer all these questions. But long story short, what it does is it tests you on building codes, life safety codes, ADA accessibility codes, fire safety codes, so much stuff, HVAC, electrical, structural, like full building integration. So you are able to be very well-rounded as an interior designer and really be able to plug into the other trades because everything in a project blends together. The interior, the architecture, the plumbing, the HVAC, the tile, the drywall, everything melds together. And so it's just really important. And it was really important to me knowing that commercial was my goal to get my NCIDQ certificate. So I did. It took me multiple years. I did not pass the first time like my friend Nikki. I never gave up and I eventually did pass, cost thousands of dollars to take these tests and finally pass. If you pass it in one time, it might just be like $2,000 or something. You have to check. My prices might have changed or like $1,200 or something, but I took it multiple times until I passed all 3 parts. But I got my NCIDQ and I was so proud of that. And it really helped me as I continued to work in the commercial sector. Started working with female business owners because I'd done a couple of those free jobs. And let me tell you what, you guys, female business owners are just amazing. And I am lucky to call so many my friends now because in commercial interior design, you work on stuff for a long time. Like I said, it's not like TV. It's not like in a weekend or in a month, like it shows up. Like, no. So sometimes it's many years till something is done. And so you develop friendships and you get to know these people and their business is their baby. They put their heart, their time, their money into their business. And then for me to be brought alongside that journey with them, I do not take that lightly. And I also have a business and it's also my baby. So I know where they're coming from and I know every detail matters. And so just being able to work with so many incredible female business owners has just been a joy. And I can't stress that enough. And that's again, like why I'm doing this details podcast is because I learned so much from them. Like, yes, I was like helping them with interior design, but I would ask questions about how do you handle bookkeeping or payroll or whatever question. And it's just been incredible to have those ladies to work alongside and learn from. So let me think, where am I going next? That's been a really good freaking jaunt. I had my business for a while. I had been working on some cool projects that were making me excited, like a floral shop, a chocolate shop, a bakery, a coffee shop. And then I realized, okay, as a business owner, yeah, I like grew as an interior designer because I took my NCIDQ exam and passed, but I also needed to grow as a business owner. So I had been on social media a little bit, like amping up to like launching my business. And then I was obviously on it for my business, but I knew I wanted to take it to the next level and like actually learn stuff about Instagram. I wasn't a consumer, like I was using it for business. So I wanted to be as strategic as possible. So one thing I decided to do was, if you don't follow Natalie Kovarik, you definitely should follow her on Instagram. She's a fellow Nebraskan, but she's in the agricultural space, right? And she decided to do something called Rural Rooted in Colorado, which was a female retreat all about social media marketing. And I was like, do you know what? That sounds cool. I really want to do that. So I applied because it was an applicant process. There was only a certain number of people that could get in to a Rural Rooted because you had to fit in the building. Luckily, I made it in. I don't know how, but thank you, Natalie, for accepting me into that first Rural Rooted class that you did because it was wonderful in so many reasons. Number one, Well, I went to it in 2021. I had my son in 2020. And then I went to Rural Rooted in Colorado in 2021. It was like the first time I'd been away from him. So that was really hard. But not only did we learn so much about social media and social media marketing and like your archetype and amazing tools to speak directly to your end user or your client, like speak to them. I also met so many women that are incredible and doing so many different things around the world or around the States, I guess. And I still have friendships with a couple of those girls today, and I talk to them weekly. I've done some interior design projects for a lot of them. So yes, learning a lot about social media marketing at the Rural Rooted was great for my business. And then meeting all those women again, just to like bounce ideas off of, get their 2 cents, ask business questions, like that was super imperative to me. So that was one step I took into growing my business. Here's the other thing. As interior designers, I feel like a lot of big firms that I see get stuck in their niche and they'll go to NeoCon every single year or they'll go to the HD Expo every single year. Since I wanted to be in the commercial sector, I also really wanted to be well-rounded. So I've been to NeoCon, I've been to the HD Expo, I've also been to Round Top in Texas, which is like more antiques. So I try to do different things and go to different expos or conferences because I want to continually be learning and growing my mind. And I don't want to always go to the same thing forever because I feel like that's in a comfort zone and I don't want to get stuck. Maybe I won't. And no shade to any of these conferences. They're all wonderful. And you should go to them if you can. But I just want to always keep learning. And like recently in November, I went to the flea markets in Paris because I love antiques and I love reused objects and just vintage pieces. That's like an important part of my business. And so I'd like heard about the majestic Paris fleas. That is one thing I would suggest if you are, going into the interior design industry or starting your own firm, like do whatever you can that interests you, but make sure you like try to stay well-rounded. Because I think that at the end of the day is going to benefit your business and really position you well for potential clients. The journey of being a business owner is hard. It's very hard. It's not for the lighthearted. You start off, you're making no money basically because it's a startup, or you get investors or you get a loan, right? So I was self-funded. I did not get a loan. I did not do a GoFundMe or crowdfunding or whatever that is, or I didn't get a loan from the bank or anything. So what I did was I just took $2,000 from my own paycheck, which, I wasn't making that much before I started my business. And I started my business with $2,000. And the very first thing I did was get a website. And then I got a headshot to put on the website. And I use Squarespace and I do all of the back end stuff. So have mercy and grace on me if you don't like my website. I just be doing it myself. Because hiring a web developer can be expensive. And I did pay for my first logo. And I just bought the logo. I didn't do like a whole branding suite. Since then, I have gone through and hired a graphic designer and done a whole rebrand and everything. So when I started, I had the logo, the website, the headshot, website backend, and like all the copy and layout and everything done by me. So it was rough. But that's one of the huge, 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 huge things about business. One of the best pieces of business advice that I ever got was just start and make edits as you go. Because I think most people get like frozen from their perfection. And I am the biggest perfectionist of them all, you guys. If you know me, I'm an Enneagram type 1. I'm a huge perfectionist. And I can see, even with this podcast, like, I didn't want to start. Like, I didn't feel like everything was perfect. Like, I bought this giant light and it didn't work. And I was like, my lighting's going to be bad or whatever. It's fine. Like, I am fully aware that like when you start something, you're not going to be the best, but just start and like start getting some traction and then make edits and tweaks as you go. So like that's what I did with the website. Like it started off pretty crappy, and every once in a while when I had a free second, I would go in and try to like add a color block or like add better photography as more projects came in. And so it's the same thing with anything that you're doing in the business. Like obviously do everything legally. But just start. Like that's the best advice I can give you if you want to be a business owner. Start. It's going to be extremely hard, but just start and then tweak as you go. And I mean, if you really, really want to be a business owner, like be in business for yourself. I think a lot of people want to be a business owner because they're like, I want to set my own schedule. Like I want to take a vacation whenever I want. Well, if you're not happy working a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 5, don't become a business owner. Don't do it. You'll be working constantly. Like to be successful in business, I feel like your business brain has to always be on day and night, and you're constantly thinking of how to reach people, how to improve your products or services, how to streamline your business funnel. Like you should be listening to business podcasts, reading business books, like consuming. So if you're not obsessed and in love with the industry that you're going into, like say you're just going into an industry because you think you're going to make money or it's like a really good markup or something, I don't know if you'll have enough heart to like stick through the hard times, because it does take a while to start actually making money. I don't know, like when I started making money, let me think. The first couple years I did not make like any money at all. And then maybe around year 3 or 4, I started having some money coming in and some more work. So I hired my first employee. First, I was hiring people part-time, and then it moved more full-time. The max people I've ever had working at one time for me was 3, but not all of them were full-time. So you have to look at your profit and loss sheet, see how the numbers are working out, see what areas you need help in. And that's the big thing. Like, you know what makes you money in your industry and you know what you're good at. So you focus on what you're good at and what makes money, and then outsource some of the other components of the business that maybe don't light your heart on fire. But that can be, systemized or put into a process that someone else can do. Okay, you guys, this is a super important part about business. When you're starting a business, it's important to hire the right people. So one of the things I did early on was like an attorney to get my LLC started up. That was not a good hire. I should have hired someone else. / you can also walk in to, at least in Nebraska, you can just walk in and file your own LLC for $15. I did not know that. And I paid an attorney hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So that was a bad hire. But can I tell you that with this, like I'm from an interior design background. I don't know how to podcast. So what did I do? I hired producer Courtney, because I'm like, I have no idea what to do. I'm stalking you on social media, trying to learn how to start a podcast, and I do not know how to do it. So I hired producer Courtney Barker, and that is one of the best things you can do in business. You're not going to know all the answers right away. And like when I have my friend Kelly on, she started a spa. She hired an epic spa advisor. So you can hire someone who knows more than you, and you can pay them for their time, or pick their brain, or if they have like a digital PDF you can buy or anything, like please do that, because that is wonderful. So shout out to producer Courtney. Thank you for helping me with this podcast. I literally couldn't have even set it up without you. My microphone was on the ground when she joined this podcast, and now it's in the air. So thank you, Courtney. And that is just a great piece of advice to anyone who's starting a business. Like, don't be afraid to hire an advisor, even temporarily. Like, you don't have to like hire a full-time employee, but even just hiring a professional for their time, trying to like learn a little bit from them and take that and add that to your bag of tricks or your tool belts. I cannot recommend that enough. I also thought about doing a whole separate podcast episode just on business advice, like not interior design, not my journey, but just like general business advice, because I think there is so much business advice that not only applies to interior design, but tons of other industries. But hey, I guess I'm just kind of putting it in here too. Design awards and magazines. It feels weird to talk about because I don't like want to be talking about myself, but design awards are wonderful. I think you should apply and submit projects to as many design awards as you can. I've been shocked and blessed and so thankful to have won a couple of IIDA idea awards. IIDA is the International Interior Design Association, which is like in Nebraska, a little more commercial, and then ASID is a little more residential. However, I've heard in other states it's like flipped. But I do think if you're an interior designer, you should join one of those too, just for like networking, continued education, and the awards, because you can submit your projects for awards. And then there's a panel of judges from around the nation that actually judge the work. And your projects are submitted anonymously. Like there's certain criteria like photos, floor plan, photographer credits, and then a short description. And sometimes there's like certain points you have to like hit, talking points. But it's incredible to see no name attached to your project, no social media. Oh, I know that person, or that designer is like such a huge firm, or like that person's international, or that person's working out of her basement. Like there's none of that. These judges see no names. They just see your projects. And then I've gotten a couple IIDA idea awards. And IDEA stands for Interior Design Excellence Awards. And I mean, when I tell you, I was like floored and honored, because I actually am a girl working out in my basement. Like we remodeled my basement That's something you guys want to know. We remodeled my whole basement. So it's like our studio, materials library. Like we have these wonderful, I should take you on a tour sometime. We have these wonderful cabinets organized. We have our printer, we have our computers, everything down there. But yeah, I'm just a girl working out of her basement. And to win some of these IIDA idea awards when I'm going up against literal international architecture and design firms floored me. Like, wow. So I felt like God was like, hey, you're on the right track. This is where I want you. This is what you're doing. And then there was a new one. So the Midwest Design and Furniture Fair popped up, and different areas like have like design fairs, but the Midwest hasn't really had one. So I'd seen it one year and I didn't go. And then the second year they reached out to me and asked me to come, and I was like looking at it. It was like, okay, I had a project that I was jazzed about and I really wanted to submitted it. And when I went to the party, because there was like a award party or whatever, there were so many talented people from all across the Midwest, and there was different categories of stuff. We did not win best in class, so I did not win a trip to Paris, but I did win the best single family home in the Midwest. And so that was just insane and shocking. Magazines. Okay. I feel like every girly bop and guy who does interior design wants their work to be published in a magazine. And let me tell you what, it's hard. It is super hard to get published. And maybe some people are better than I am at it. And actually, I'll tell you the truth. People who are really good at it hire PR firms, and not just any PR firms. They hire PR firms that like cost $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 a month, and not everyone can do that. So, that's like probably your favorite interior designer that you follow on Instagram has a PR firm. Just want to let you know. Go to dadagoldberg.com sometime and look at all the people they represent. You're like, oh, I thought that guy was like a DIYer, TikToker, Instagrammer. Like I thought he was just so like wholesome and like organic. And like maybe he was at first, like for sure he was. But then like, giant PR firms get behind some big and small people and really take them to the next level, get them tons of articles and exposures. Like Arc Digest, love them, love them. But after I like started searching for my own self, like for a PR firm, like kind of just like doing some internal research, seeing what's out there, I started seeing who represented who. And like, I'm like, these are all the people that I see in all of the magazines and all the magazines' social media accounts. So that was eye-opening and kind of sad, because I always thought like, oh, you work hard enough, you be good enough, you make like beautiful enough art, and you'll just like get in these magazines. Like it'll just take one beautiful project and people will just be like, oh, we have to publish this. That's not how it is, you guys. I have done digging online to find editors' emails. Sometimes they're in the front of a magazine and you can find it there. But I've done like digging. And most magazines are actually owned by a mother media company, and they'll take submissions, editorial submissions or whatever. Some websites have like you can submit a project and they're just taking them year round, but they're always months ahead and they have specific topics already slated out for the year. And so like if your stuff doesn't fit in their topic, you're not getting in. So it's not even personal. It's just like, oh, that doesn't fit their theme or like their topics that they're wanting to hit. Like maybe they wanted to do like indoor outdoor spaces for June. I don't know. I'm not an editor. I'm just trying to explain to you what I've learned. But so that's not personal, but I do feel like having a PR firm could really help you. I hired a small local Nebraska PR firm for 6 months one time, and it was a huge money investment. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it was, I can't remember. I don't want to say the wrong thing. 5,000 is popping in my head. I don't know if that's right. Maybe it was, no. Maybe it was $2,000 a month or something, but that was a lot of money. Okay. I can't remember. I hope I'm not quoting this wrong, but it helped a little bit. But the biggest thing I learned about hiring a PR firm is that it's a long game. So like paying a PR firm for 6 months isn't that great. You really got to commit for like 2-4 years, because they have those ties with the media outlets and the editors, and it's a long game thing. So me doing it 6 months, probably not the smartest, but I'm all about trying new things. And I think that's really important for business owners is don't stay in your comfort zone. Always be trying to learn and grow. And you are going to make mistakes. If you listen to any business podcast or if you follow any business person on social media, they're going to tell you if you are not losing and failing, you are not trying hard enough. And it is so true. Like you've got to be trying different things, putting yourself out there. And I know that sounds scary, but like, that's what business is about. And I love that. One of the earliest people that I started following for business was Gary Vee. And I love everything he says. You should definitely go follow him if you don't already. But he was the one who said, just do it. Like just start. Okay, that sounded like Nike, but just start the business and make adjustments as you go. And that's literally been my North Star for business. And I tell anyone who's asking me about business advice, that's the first piece of business advice I get them, which I've already said once on this podcast. So now I'm just being redundant. So maybe it's time to wrap this up because I am kind of done talking about myself. Yeah, eventually, like I applied to get in magazines for like maybe 2 or 3 years before I finally got one in. Praise the Lord, I got one magazine cover and one like multi-page spread, and that like made my year. I was like, oh, pinnacle, I achieved my dream. I can die happy now. And then in 2023, I got the biggest dream client ever. Worked on that for the remainder of 2023, all of 2024, still working on it now in 2025. So many cool things to come to show you guys. But hopefully that was a really good summary and explanation. And hopefully that gives you guys what you wanted to know. So for all of you guys that are out there asking me to lunch, asking me to coffee to learn about how I got to where I am, thank you for the interest. I don't feel like I'm that interesting. Not a business expert, but more than happy to share what I know here on this podcast space. So I hope that this was what you wanted to hear. And I hope that you guys will come back and listen to the interesting guests that we have slated because I'm so excited. I can't wait for you to meet them. I'm sure you know some of them if you already follow me on social media, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like they've worked together, but there's some people that you don't know about. I'd love to sit down with Emma Greedy because she's like the business mogul behind the Kardashian brands Skim and Good American. And she does like the actual business operations of it and not just like the fun marketing photo shoots. I would love to sit down with Jessie from Secret Lives of Mormon Wives because she, and I don't think they touch this on the show enough, she started a business empire. Like she has the hair salon. She has her whole line of products, extensions, tools. She also has a school there in Salt Lake City or wherever in Utah they are. They have a hair school. She also travels and does teaching, and she makes buku bucks, and she is a multidisciplinary woman in business, and I would love to interview her. The other one from Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that I would like to interview is Demi. And people are like, probably like, why? Like, she doesn't seem like a businesswoman. No, she is, you guys. I watched a podcast of her, and it was like an old podcast from years ago before the show was on. And I'm not on TikTok, so I didn't even know who any of these girls were before the show came out. But Demi was on this podcast and she's like, if you're not on social media to make money, what are you doing? You're just watching other people's lives. And I was like, yes, that is so true. So I think she's very business minded. Some of the things she said in that interview were very cool. So I'd love to interview Jessie, the business mogul, and Demi, the businesswoman from Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And then hold on, there's so many others. I would love to talk to Lauren Williams Art. She's a fiber artist in Texas, and she has grown her business substantially. And I see her doing really strategic, cool business moves and collaborations. And she's just great at marketing. Would love to interview her. I would love to interview Mark Maggiore Art. He makes the most photorealistic paintings. Like, it feels like 1800s French Renaissance painting, like you are in the Louvre. But no, it's modern day. He is French, but it's modern day paintings that have so much attention to detail. You can see the hairs on the horse. I would love to talk to him about his business. Because I'm pretty sure his art starts for like 400,000 a piece. Don't quote me, but maybe cool. Jack Carr, I would love to talk to Jack Carr. He's an author and he writes a thriller series, and it's just so fascinating. He's also an ex-Navy SEAL, so he writes from a place of experience on war, and that's just very interesting to me. Off of that, Mace Curran is a female ex-fighter jet pilot. She flew fighter jets and was also in like one of the performing ones. I think it was Blue Angels, or it was the other one. One is with the Navy and one is with the Air Force. Gotta cut that. I should know this. But I would love to interview Mace because there are very few female fighter pilots and then very few that actually do like the aerial tricks and shows, and just the amount of G's that her body has to go through and how much strength she has. And then she turned that into a career. Like now she's going all across America and speaking. I think that would be so cool to talk to her. Also, it's freezing here in Nebraska. So I have like my heaters cranked because I didn't want to be freezing during this show. And now this whole time I've been like, I'm so hot. My face is so red. I would die. I would love to interview Evie Pompuris. She is an ex-Secret Service agent. She was there on 9/11 at Ground Zero. She protected President Obama. She has Greek heritage, and she has an amazing book called Becoming Bulletproof. If you haven't read it, you should. It's Life Lessons from a Secret Service Agent. And there's so many applicable things for your life, but I would love to talk to her about how she took her career in Secret Service, turned that into being an author and a speaker, because she seems very business minded and just an incredible lady. I would have so much to learn from her. I do learn so much from her in her book. I would love to sit down and talk with her someday. Oh my gosh, you guys, I did not know this. Someone from Laguna Beach lives in Nebraska. Yes, Talon, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Torriero. So funny because I'm doing a California project and I actually like to stay in Laguna Beach when I'm visiting our site. And so to know that someone lived and grew up in Laguna Beach and then chose to come to Omaha, Nebraska and live here is wild. I would love to talk to him. I think he found love and found a lady and moved here and made a family. And I low-key think she might be in interior design. So that could be super fun to have them both on the podcast. But also, I might not be the best person to interview him because we didn't have cable TV growing up. So I caught like maybe 2 or 3 episodes of Laguna Beach, like when I was at a friend's house. But it was so cool. And I still would love to get someone's opinion, like going from amazing, beautiful, sunshine all the time, California, to living in Nebraska, who's semi kind of famous. I think I would love to get their take on Nebraska. So that's a little list of people that I hope to interview. I have a lot of friends and people I've worked with lined up for the pod and some special guests. But yeah, I would love to shoot for the stars. And if you're interested in coming on this podcast, please let me know because I would love to ask you all the questions and find out all the details about your life and your business and what you do and what inspires you. Okay. I also think, hear me out, I think it would be cool to have a trust fund baby or a trust fund adult on the podcast because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about trust fund people out there and like what their life is like. And they could even come on incognito. Like they could wear like a motorcycle helmet if they don't want people to know they're a trust fund human. But I think that would be a really interesting interview because like I think they are business minded or like they inherited a lot of money from people who have businesses and they are like probably still in the business world investing. So I think that would be a very interesting interview. I would like to interview a trust fund human about business and get their thoughts on life. Because I also think like I grew up with no money and I think people around me thought, oh, if you grow up with a lot of money, life is just easy and it's great. But I think everyone has struggles in different ways. And I don't think that phrase, more money, more problems. Like I actually do think that might be true. I think you don't stress about finances and stuff, but I think that comes with like a whole different slew of problems, personal, business, whatever. And I just think that would be a fascinating interview. So yeah, I'm just putting that out there in the world. And thank you guys so much for listening to my first podcast. I hope it wasn't an absolute roller coaster, but if it was, I hope you enjoy roller coasters. Like I like roller coasters. This is getting weird. I should probably end it. Thank you guys for listening to my first podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you guys keep coming back. See you next week. Bye. It just feels so weird to like hear myself talk, but I got to get used to that. Thanks so much for listening to the Details Podcast by the Heartland. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow along on Instagram at The Details Pod, subscribe on YouTube, and leave us a review. Turn on your notifications to hear new episodes every Monday. See you next week. Bye.